Tonight, the Senate investigates how pandemic relief money has been spent so far.
The typical family of four received approximately $3,400. We have distributed about $150 billion to states, local, and tribal governments.
We'll have the latest from Capitol Hill. Plus,
I'm taking it, hydroxychloroquine.
Reaction to the president's announcement that he's taking an unproven anti-malarial drug as a preventative measure against COVID-19. And
he wasn't just coordinating with them about planning and tactics, he was helping the organization.
As the U.S. highlights ties between the 2019 Pensacola shooter and a terrorist organization, renewed concern over the threat of al-Qaeda attacks in America. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. A transition to greatness is what the president is urging tonight. Welcome to Faith Nation, and thanks for joining us. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. President Trump is pushing for the American economy to reopen. Today, making his way from the White House to Capitol Hill to meet with Republican senators and discuss the way forward.
The president touting a return to a word that launched his bid to the White House, greatness.
We're opening up. The states are opening up. Numbers are going down as they open. Look at Georgia, look at Florida, look at others. We have states that are opening up and the numbers are going down. But it's a transition to greatness.
The president's visit to the Hill came as the country's top two financial officials face tough questions on relief aid spending.
That's right. Senators grilled Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, focusing on the state of the economy and whether Congress's recent aid packages have been adequately distributed.
And for more on that, for today's hearing, let's bring in Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson. Abigail?
That's right. Well, today on the Hill, Secretary Mnuchin defended the Trump administration's economic response to the coronavirus pandemic and repeatedly reminded senators that the current aid packages were negotiated by both parties.
I am following what was the exact letter and spirit of the law that we negotiated with you and others on a bipartisan basis.
Mnuchin warned the country risks permanent economic damage if businesses remain closed. But Senator Sherrod Brown questioned if workers should return without proper protections.
How many workers will die if we send people back to work without the protections they need, Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Senator, we don't intend to send anybody back to work without the protections.
Mnuchin acknowledged they're still discovering and addressing unintended consequences from the relief bills, like large corporations draining the Paycheck Protection Program.
I think we all had certain concerns about, in the first tranche, how larger companies were prioritized. I believe that's now been corrected.
And handling laid-off employees reluctant to return to work because they're making more money from unemployment benefits.
If you offer back a worker and they don't take that job, you will be required to notify the local unemployment insurance agency, because that person will no longer be eligible for unemployment.
Democrats hoped Powell's testimony would pressure Republicans into another relief bill.
As policymakers, we should continue to do what we can to help cushion the blow.
And in addition to President Trump being on the Hill today, Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary Mnuchin also went to the Capitol to meet with Senate Republicans and talk about possible next steps before Memorial Day recess. But it's still uncertain if and when Republicans might push for an additional relief bill. Back to you, John and Jenna.
And Austin Goolsbee is an economist and ABC News contributor, and he joins us now for more. Austin, good to have you. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So the House passed a $3 trillion rescue plan over the weekend. It looks to be dead on arrival in the Senate. There's no question, though, that the Senate does have to do something. What do you think we could see the Senate do?
Well, you know, the fighting that's going on is kind of taking place in the context of nothing like this has ever happened in the economy before. We've never seen the unemployment rate go up this much, this quickly. And if the Senate and the House don't agree on something, I think you're going to see thousands of businesses and even more than that, employees really put in a tough spot. So I think in the end, they're likely in the Senate to come up with some more basic form of relief. But the sticking points, as you know, are things like, are they going to try to rescue the states and prevent the states from laying off workers? Are they going to extend the small business programs past the end of June? Or are we going to see another big wave of unemployment at the end of June? I'd say those are the two most pressing.
Yeah, we'll see. So Fed Chief Jerome Powell and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin testified before Congress today. On Saturday, Powell urged Congress to spend more money. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I'm kind of two minds, because on one hand, this is a virus economics recession. It's not a regular recession. So the normal playbook, which says do stimulus and try to restart the economy, I don't think that can work until you get control of the spread of the virus. You can send people checks, but they're not going to go out of their house and spend those checks unless they feel safe. So I do think that Congress needs to spend some money. The money it needs to spend is to prevent foreclosures and prevent bankruptcies and permanent damage from a temporary shock. But, you know, we'll see how the Fed reacts, because the Fed has a great deal of firepower that it can use in lending, and it hasn't yet used it. That was kind of the subject of the criticism before Congress.
The President's Economic Council Director, Larry Kudlow, has suggested a payroll tax holiday for people coming back to work. Is there bipartisan agreement around that idea?
I don't think there is bipartisan agreement, and honestly, I'm a little the timing of something like that seems off to me, because the employers are in contraction mode. They're firing and laying off more workers than ever before. Giving a payroll tax cut, that's not really what's happening. You know, if you cut the cost of employment by 7%, that's not going to lead companies that have lost all their demand to hire employees. I think once we get past this initial part, then things like payroll tax cuts or other kinds of tax cuts or stimulus could work. But in the short run, we've got to throw everything we have at slowing the spread of the virus, and we've got to make sure that we don't allow permanent damage to take place from this thing that's temporary.
Austin Goolsbee with ABC News, thank you so much. Good to have you today.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jenna. Still strong reaction tonight, 24 hours after President Trump's bombshell revelation that he's been taking hydroxychloroquine as a preventative against COVID-19. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us now. Ben, Mr. Trump had some choice words today for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who criticized him for taking the anti-malarial drug.
Yeah, John, you're right. President Trump pushed back on Pelosi, calling her a sick woman with a lot of problems, mental problems. This after you were talking about, John, there, Pelosi called President Trump obese and that she thinks he should not be taking hydroxychloroquine, a drug Trump says he's been on now for a week and a half. And the timing also coincides with 2 White House staffers who tested positive for the virus.
Well, I think we just want people in this country to be healthy.
And to stay healthy, President Trump announced Monday that he's taking hydroxychloroquine, the anti-malaria drug he touted as a possible game-changer treatment for COVID-19.
The frontline workers, many are taking it. I happen to be taking it.
Hydroxychloroquine?
I'm taking it, hydroxychloroquine. Right now, yeah.
Trump said White House doctor Sean Coley determined the potential benefit from the drug outweighed the relative risk. The FDA has put the onus on healthcare professionals when it comes to hydroxychloroquine, warning against using it outside hospitals or clinical trials because it could cause heart problems.
Hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine have not been shown to be safe and effective.
Even top Democrats question Trump's treatment.
He's our president, and I would rather he not be taking something that has not been approved by the scientists, especially in his age group and in his, shall we say, weight group, what is morbidly obese, they say. So I think it's not a good idea.
Meanwhile, a potential breakthrough on the vaccine front after Moderna Labs reported that all 45 of its test patients produced antibodies that fight the disease. It means a vaccine could be one step closer to being ready by the end of the year.
Now, the Moderna vaccine project will have to have more phases of testing to see if it does in fact have an additional positive trend. In the meantime, there is no FDA-approved therapeutics or drugs to treat, cure, or even prevent COVID-19. John, Jenna?
All right, Ben, thanks. Meanwhile, President Trump is threatening to permanently cut funding for the World Health Organization if it doesn't make major improvements in 30 days. The U.S. and many other member states believe the WHO fell short of its mission to warn the world about the threat of the virus. The president says an administration investigation found the organization made repeated missteps in the early days of the outbreak. The WHO has agreed to an independent probe reviewing its response.
Coming up, new revelations about a deadly military-based shooting and the threat of al-Qaeda in America.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Welcome back. President Trump's nominee to lead America's intelligence community is one step closer to confirmation. Texas Congressman John Ratcliffe's nomination narrowly cleared a key vote today in the Senate Intelligence Committee along party lines 8-7. His nomination now advances to a full Senate vote where it is expected he will be confirmed as Director of National Intelligence. That vote likely taking place after Memorial Day. Well, tonight, a closer look at the 2019 terror attack on the U.S. Naval base in Pensacola, Florida, as investigators scour new evidence from the gunman.
One key question is whether authorities could or should have handled things differently. CBN national security correspondent Eric Phillips joins us with more. Eric?
Jenna and John, looking back at the December attack, we turned to defense specialist Michael O'Hanlon, senior fellow with the Brookings Institution. He says despite the very tragic deaths back in December, he says we stand more to gain than to lose, the U.S. does, by training foreign fighters on U.S. soil. He also says that cell phone security should probably stay just like it is. Chaos at Naval Station Pensacola. A terrorist opens fire, killing 3 people and injuring 8 others. The gunman, Mohammed al-Shamrani, a member of the Saudi Air Force being trained in Florida. Only now, months later, has the FBI finally been able to crack his cell phones, showing strong ties to al-Qaeda.
The new evidence shows that al-Shamrani had radicalized not after training here in the United States, but at least as far back as 2015, taking advantage of the information he acquired here to assess how many people he could try to kill.
Initially, the Defense Department ordered a stop to all international military students training at U.S. installations. It has since resumed.
The military trainees from abroad have, to my count, been responsible for 2 or 3 of these incidents on American soil in the last decade. That's still 2 or 3 too many. It has to be kept in perspective. There are some countries that we have security partnerships with that are important enough that we have to weigh, again, the value of having these people on our soil and being people we can work with in the future against the risks. With the Saudis, I'm a little bit more wary and a little bit more skeptical that the relationship is on the right track.
Still, O'Hanlon says we need trained foreign fighters to battle terrorism, and expecting foolproof vetting is unrealistic. It would also require tech companies to help authorities.
Apple's desire to provide privacy for its customers is understandable, but not at all costs.
Attorney General William Barr chided Apple for not doing more to help access the gunman's iPhones.
Apple had deliberately designed them so that only the user, in this case the terrorist, could gain access to their contents.
It took agents 5 labor-intensive months to do it, despite a court order. Barr wants these companies to create a back door that would allow law enforcement access in times like these.
But technologically, we also have to worry about the third aspect of this, which again is that nefarious actors will figure out how to exploit backdoors. Let's remember, apparently we still have retaliated against the perpetrators of the propaganda. It just took longer than we would have liked.
Now, Apple has responded to Attorney General William Barr's criticism, saying it did everything it could to assist in this investigation, but it did fall short of committing to create that so-called backdoor, calling it a national security risk that would do more harm than good. John and Jenna.
Eric, thank you. The 2020 race for the White House. Up next, secret Trump voters break their silence.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Welcome back. Well, Jenna, you'll remember if you look at polling back in 2016,
President Trump was not expected to win, and one factor could be voters who didn't admit they were backing the unconventional candidate.
Yeah, it was a big storyline back then, but now in 2020, some who may have once been reluctant to publicly voice their support for the president are silent no more. David Brody explains.
John and Jenna, something is lurking out there in America, specifically stealth Trump voters. They're out there. It's anecdotal. You can't put an exact number on it, but they're there for sure. How do we know this? Look, as it relates to internet polls, Donald Trump does better, 6% better than when it comes to actually speaking to a pollster on the phone where they have to reveal their name and identity. We spoke to quite a few secret Trump voters. We're going to call these two that you're about to hear from John and Jane. Once again, we're masking their identities. They don't want to be identified, not because they're embarrassed for their vote for President Trump, not at all. Their issue specifically is that they don't want the retribution. They feel that they have a target on their back.
You do have a target on your back. You know, people, I mean, by the very nature of the word, being conservative and voting that way, you're just going to kind of be conservative. You're not going to be vocal and going out and pushing. But you get the liberals out there that come and attack you. So it's easier for me to just be quiet and let them attack whoever they want to, instead of directing that anger at me.
And I'm a single mom. And as I mentioned, my son's 16. He just turned 16. And I have to take care of him. And I told him in school never to voice conservative voice, never to voice a conservative view, because I feel he will be victimized and his grades will suffer.
So you feel like if you voice any public support for Trump, there's like a target on your back.
Yes. And I mentioned I'm getting a lot of text and email from the campaign to contribute to his campaign. And I'm scared to death. I want to, but I don't want to, because I don't want my name on any list that's going to associate with me with being a Trump supporter.
There are plenty of other secret Trump voters out there. I spoke to a guy named Richard, once again, not his real name. He talked about wanting to be a witness for his neighbor that he's known for a very long time. They've known each other about 25 years or so. The neighbor has cancer. He's an anti-Trump guy. And he says, look, I'm just not going to go there and have to deal with all of that. But deep down, he's voting for Donald Trump. So we wait to see how this plays out. I can tell you this, senior advisor to the Trump campaign, Corey Lewandowski, tells me that he believes those secret Trump voters are not only out there, but they're specifically out there in the African-American community. He says, watch that number in 2020 as well. We'll have to all wait and see in this virtual election that's on the way. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
All right, thank you, David. An evangelist, apologist, and minister to the nations. A look back at the life of Ravi Zacharias when we come back.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
The Christian community is in mourning today. Well-known author, evangelist, and Christian apologist Ravi Zacharias died early this morning at his home in Atlanta.
His death comes after a brief battle with bone cancer. Zacharias was 74. Here is a look back at his amazing life and ministry.
Ravi Zacharias was a 17-year-old skeptic, an unbeliever, recovering from a suicide attempt when he heard the words of Jesus in John 14:19. Because I live, you also will live. The truth of Scripture gave Zacharias hope, and he gave his life to Christ, promising to leave no stone unturned in his pursuit of truth. The verse in John 14, I am the way, the truth, and the life, became the cornerstone of Zacharias' ultimate mission as a Christian apologist and evangelist, to present and defend the truth of Jesus Christ, that others may find life in him. Zacharias did just that several times over the years on the 700 Club.
How wonderful to know that when Jesus Christ speaks to you and to me, He enables you to understand yourself, to die to that self because of the cross, and brings the real you to birth. When you're crucified with Christ, nevertheless you live, yet not you, but Christ lives in you. I think that's so unique that one cannot escape the ramifications.
Zacharias began preaching in India at the age of 19. Years later, he was invited to speak at the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association in Amsterdam, where he addressed 4,000 other speakers. It would be a turning point for him as he began to seriously consider the critical need of apologetics to remove the intellectual barriers that kept many from considering the claims of Christ. In 1984, he founded Ravi Zacharias International Ministries.
Do you think God's brought you here for a purpose this morning? It may be you really don't know Him, but deep inside you're wanting Him very badly, and saying, God, if you're real, speak to me.
Even to the end, Zacharias remained committed to sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ through preaching, teaching, and his popular radio program called Let My People Think. He shared the gospel with millions of people in more than 70 countries and wrote more than 25 books. In 2017, Zacharias' vision to establish an apologetics training center in the U.S. was realized with the launch of the Zacharias Institute in Atlanta. He spent nearly 50 years advancing the Christian faith and addressing some of life's greatest questions.
Through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, you can become one with God. It is a unique claim. No other religion allows it.
At the core of the Christian faith is the grace of God. If there's one word I would grab from all of that, it's forgiveness. That you can be forgiven, I can be forgiven, and it is of the grace of God.
Zacharias and his wife Margie were married for 48 years and have 3 grown children. Ravi Zacharias was 74.
A giant in the faith who will be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that does it for Faith Nation tonight.
Hope to see you again tomorrow.